What would the world look like if people felt like they mattered? Welcome to the Lead with Love podcast, exploring what it means to lead with love in business and life. I'm your host, Giada Sellner, and in this show, I'll share meaningful conversations to help you, the creative, the entrepreneur, the world changer, reach more people, go after your dreams, and serve your community with love. I appreciate you joining me. Now let's get cozy and start today's episode. Have you ever found yourself feeling like you're rich in purpose, but your bank account doesn't reflect that? If you want more commas in your bank account while staying intentional and aligned with your purpose, then this episode is for you. You're listening to episode 126 of the Lead with Love podcast. And in today's conversation, I get cozy with Nicole Walters. Now, by age 28, Nicole was a highly paid executive at a Fortune 500 company, managing multi-billion-dollar accounts. And she actually quit her corporate job live on Periscope in front of 10,000 people because her job was feeding her family, but not her soul. Now, Nicole has been able to build a steady 7-figure gig on her own terms by opening her own private business and product development consulting firm, The Monetized Life. And now she teaches everyday entrepreneurs how to earn passive income through her wildly popular online course, 1K One Day, at NicoleWalters.tv. And I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. It's fun, deep, light, all in one conversation. And some things that we talk about are why it's important to look at the whole person and not just look at people as numbers. Also, making leaps into the unknown and the fear that definitely comes along with it. We also talk about accessibility, wealth, and rich friends, which she actually calls her community, and you'll learn more about why she chose that name, and how to leverage stories and online visibility in your business, which I know sometimes I can struggle with that as well, especially when you are the face of your brand, and the ways Nicole is increasing representation both on her team and in her community. And for me, representation matters so much, and just being able to see people who look like you, that you can identify with and relate with when you're looking at people, you know, whether on a stage or reading a book or in a movie. Just representation matters so much, and I really love what she shares about this. And then we also talk about what to automate and what not to automate in business, and this is so aligned with what I talk about when it comes to leading with love in business. And of course, if you are ready to make love your number one strategy in business, I would definitely check out my TEDx talk. And if you go to giadasellner.com/TEDx, that will take you right to the video on YouTube. And Nicole definitely mentioned some pretty cool books that I've already added to my reading list. So make sure that you go over to giadasellner.com/126 to get the full show notes from this episode. Now let's get cozy with Nicole. All right, Nicole, we're making this happen.
So excited to be here. I can't even tell you.
We were just talking about our little foursome group. So Jen Kem and I did an interview with her on Lead with Love a couple of episodes ago, and also Nikki Elledge Brown interviewed me. So I'm so honored to have you on the podcast today. But what Jen Kem and I did, we tend to fly on planes together and we make these mastermind plans up and we include people in them without getting their buy-in. And so what Jen and I did, I think we were flying back from Tulum or flying to Tulum, something. And we started brainstorming. We're like, like The View, like what if there was, we created a video show, a TV show, about entrepreneurship, but it's like me, you, Nikki Elledge Brown. We've got the Southern redhead. And then we're like, and Nicole Walters. Like we just were like, oh my God, that would be so amazing.
It'd be so amazing. I'm glad that you guys do things like that, because I'm a big believer in like putting out your divine intention and like throwing things out into the world before God and hoping that they come to fruition. And I couldn't be happier to be part of the Four Crew. And you know, we don't have a name. We're not cool like that. We're not that cool.
Right.
But I'm so glad that I'm now in the same world as you guys, because amazing women. I'm so glad.
Yeah. And I know the three of you just got to spend some time on the Big Island. And so I'm having major FOMO. So we're planning our next, and we actually haven't met face to face and hugged each other.
But it's already been done. This is
yes.
It's already happened. So it's already done.
Yes. So I'm so excited to connect with you and just dive into this conversation. And I feel like this is just part one, because you and I have already dived into like 15 minutes of conversation before even pressing record.
Right.
So the thing that I want to ask you before we dive in super deep is, what does leading with love mean to you? And how do you put love into practice in your business?
So I think that leading with love, at least for me, means answering to a higher calling and having a greater purpose behind what you do every day. So I work really hard to operate with intentionality. Now, that's not just, the intentionality that can be tracked by data and statistics, like, a bigger launch or making more money or helping more people, but intentionality saying when I leave this world, what type of world am I leaving behind? Is it a healthier world? Is it, a world where global warming has been slowed or stopped? Is it a world where animals and vulnerable people are going to be better cared for, loved, and recognized? And how are the things that I'm doing every single day helping lead us to that purpose, which is, that greater love? So that's what leading with love means to me. Mm. And then when it comes to putting love into my business and what I do every single day, that is pretty easy. One of the things that I instruct my team to do, as well as, myself and my actions, is to look at the whole person. So we're not just looking at people as numbers. That's actually why I got out of corporate. I don't want to ever see a dollar sign floating above someone's head, or just notice and recognize them as client 34812. I want to see the whole person. So, let's try to get to know their kids' names. Let's try to know, their business and their hobby. Let's refer to people by name. Let's pick up the phone and call them. If we find something's going on, let's send flowers. If we hear that they've experienced a loss, let's send flowers if we hear that they've experienced a win. These are important things, because we're serving actual real life people with their own intentions and their own goals. And that's what it is to lead with love in our business.
I love that so much. And I think, for me, love over metrics, that's what that means to me. And I love that you're like, they're not a number. So I know you mentioned the corporate career. I would love for you to just describe what life was like, in that corporate world. And I'm just curious also, did you know, was that kind of the plan, the dream, childhood Nicole was like, yes, I'm going to get a corporate career. I'm going to be a CEO. I'm just curious kind of what that path to the corporate career, and then we can talk about the exit.
Sure. So the corporate job, I worked as a senior executive in a Fortune 500 company, pretty high up. I was poached from their competitor to work there and help them build out a new division. And so I was, during the time span I was with them, I scaled that from 2 million to 200. So that was an awesome experience. Just in terms of the actual work, I love building businesses. I love doing sales and business development and product creation. That's just my jam. However, the part where I didn't fit in so well was I cared too much. I cared too much. And you guys, I'm sure people listening know what that feels like, right? Where you aren't a pass the buck type of person. You're a get it done type of person. You maybe spend just a minute too long on the call, or you follow up, or you get to know your clients just a little too well. And it works great for the business. It's part of why you're good at what you do. But in corporate, they're all about efficiency. They're all about those metrics. They're all about, having different departments and divisions, and just knowing sort of how much is too much and where to stop. And that line was too blurry for me. And in the beginning, I certainly thought that was my defect, that I was wrong. Like why isn't this working for me, that I'm so invested in a relationship with my team as well as in a relationship with the people I serve. And after, some light bulb switched, and in my life, in my personal life, that let me realize, oh no, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with this.
Can we talk about that light bulb switch?
Sure. So, that big light bulb switch happened for me when I adopted my 3 daughters. And, I adopted at the time a 2 going on 3-year-old, a 12 going on 13-year-old, and a 13 going on 14-year-old. So,
ooh.
Yeah, all those, just the very best ages all at one time,
absolutely.
And all girls and their sisters. And basically, their mother was someone in our neighborhood that was really struggling with, addiction and legal challenges, just lots of different things. And she was panhandling, and that's how we met our girls on the street. We stopped, to just see if we could help them. And one thing led to the next. And, it started off as a mentorship and bringing them food. And then eventually their mother said she was going to jail. So we said we would take in the girls so they didn't go in the system. And they never left after that. And we became mom and dad. And it was a blessing to us, but it also shifted everything into a whole new perspective, because there is no passing the buck in parenting. You're the one that people are looking to for answers. Yes. And that's where you get the results. That's where, when you're forced and pushed and pressured into saying, like, no, you're the person who's responsible, you become a better you. And you also create something and support something that you realize is really going to create impact and change in the world. And that's like a person. And suppressing that, once I started really letting it bloom in parenting, became even more difficult in corporate, to the point of frustration where, I would deal, especially I was working in healthcare situations where I'd want to provide a solution for someone that I knew was in a dire situation internationally. And I'd be told, like, hey, no, your job is to kind of put your stamp on it and let the other division deal with it. And it just didn't, as a mom, some things just don't sit right with you. And it kind of became a moral integrity thing. And on top of that, I had 3 kids and I had one going to college and I needed to make money. And so I was like, I'm going to use these same gifts and I'm just going to give them to the people that I know are going to serve them best. And that's the everyday entrepreneur. I'm not going to continue to pad corporate pockets. And that was that. And it was the best decision I'd ever made. It truly was.
Yeah. So were there any fears or hesitations in making that leap? And I'm also curious, like, what was the conversation with your husband, AKA Hubbin?
The Hubbin, yes. So yeah, I was definitely scared. It's one of those things where I think that obviously there's no way that you're going to transition from something that into something that's unknown without having some of that fear there. But the blessing in all of that is that, I do have the Hubbin, and he lifts me up. He stands beside me. He goes ahead of me. And one of the things that he told me that was super powerful at the time was, and it still is to this day, is that you can always go back. You can always go back. And I'd spent 10 years giving of myself, of my gift, to an organization that leveraged it, but I don't know if they appreciated it. And what would happen if I gave myself a year? And that was such a freeing mind shift for me, because I realized that this thing, this dream, this belief was going to bug me to no end. So I should give myself a year. Let me just see, because at least then I'll be free from, I can go all back into corporate if I need to, because I don't need to worry about this entrepreneur thing anymore, Yes. So that's what I did. And the blessing is I'm still here and it's going great. And it's more than I ever could have imagined. And I'm so, so grateful.
Yes. And I know you made the official exit from the company on Periscope, which was an online video platform.
I did. I did.
What compelled you to do that?
So just to be clear, it wasn't planned. So yeah, I had been documenting prior to my exit. I was, still testing some of this content marketing thing, and I wanted to see how live streaming worked out for me. And so I was sharing sort of my entrepreneurial journey online to see how people responded to it, to, kind of interact with others and find out their stories. And in sharing that, I was also in the back end, talking to my husband about, like, I think this quit day is coming. And so I went online and I said, guys, this is going to be the day. I will come back on later and let you know how it goes. And everyone was like, oh, no. Like, we've been watching you this whole time. You are absolutely going to, keep us online while you do this. And so I did. I called my boss right there in front of everyone, live on Periscope, and I quit my job. And 10,000 people watched live and hundreds of thousands watched on the replay within 24 hours. It was absolutely crazy. didn't expect it to play out that way. I didn't anticipate that it would play out that way. But one of the powerful things that people may not have heard on the other side of that call, but my boss said to me was, if you love what you're doing and it's making you money, then why are you still here? And when he said that, I burst into tears because, I mean, of course, in my head, he was going to be like, get out of here, take your stuff, who cares? You know, like that's what I thought was going to happen. But it was so simple and it was so true. You know, I love what I'm doing and it's making me money. And, and I can even add at this point, you know, and I'm helping people, you know, what else should I be doing? You know, and so if one of those three things is missing from where you are, then, you know, you still haven't landed in your purpose. And now I'm happy to say that I am living and working in my purpose.
So a question that I have for you is, how many years were you doing the side entrepreneurial hustle, and what was the amount of money like that you kind of had to validate that the exit and the transition was still sustainable to take care of your family?
Sure. So I was a blogger. I blogged about African American beauty for 5 years. And in that time span, I started off, obviously my first year, I think I made $800, you know, and then, which is something I made $1, right? And so what was great was my spend that first year was, I think, $11. So, I mean, those are the numbers that really matter when you look at, you know, your expenses versus your income. You know, for me, that was a great year because I brought in more than I spent on my business. So, but I also, that meant, you know, compromise. I didn't go out and buy a Canon T3i camera and a new MacBook. I built my entire first year of my blog from the WordPress app on my HTC Incredible phone. So, you know, these are the things that, you know, when you talk about, you know, don't despise small beginnings, that's like where I was. And then my last year of blogging, I made $35,000. And that was all on the side with brands, partnerships, affiliate revenue, and quality content and products. So I did all of that on the side. For me, that was, okay, this is enough money for me to actually not work, and then also make sure that I wasn't replacing my income, but I had way more hours and I was doing what I loved, and it was enough for us to sustain our life. This was pre-kids, right? Right. This was pre-kids, right? You know, it's like, that's that fun post-college money where you're like, oh, this is enough for me to go to Forever 21 and maybe eat at Cheesecake Factory once in a while. I'm living good, you know, and pay for my Jetta. But you know, but it's like, but real life though, you know, once I had the kids, I was like, okay, so this is not going to be sufficient. I was super excited about a quit day, but you know, I've got my kids. I'm going to need to bring in 6-figure revenue so I can take care of these kids. And so at that point, I knew that I couldn't just sort of do the fun job that I liked, which was just blogging. I needed to find a way to do both, which is the thing that I do best, as well as the thing that I enjoy, which was truly consulting and helping build these massively profitable businesses. So I launched just a small product where I taught people how to leverage affiliate revenue correctly in just a teeny tiny, it was a product that cost $12.99. It was just a quick little download. And
what year was this?
This was in August of 2015. Actually, I launched it in July of 2015. And in July of 2015, and then the way I marketed it was I just got on live and I taught people various things about earning money online, just simple things. And they weren't just regular online business strategies, but they were like, look, this is what they're doing in corporate. This is how they're pitching in corporate. This is how they are, you know, figuring out their profit and loss statements and their balance sheets, and just really talking about the things that people kind of skip over in digital commerce, but they're the rules of regular business, you know? So, and just teaching some of those things, because I realized that everyday entrepreneurs just are kind of figuring it out as we go. And that's not a bad thing, but there's so much info out there and I'm happy to stand in that gap. So once I started doing that, and then my call to action was a simple affiliate course. And I said, hey, if you just jump in and just have 45 minutes, you can have a revenue stream, you know, and it only costs you $12.99. And people were like, oh, I can blow $12.99. I'm figuring out if this girl knows anything, you know, like we'll just figure it out. And within 3 weeks, I made $11,000. That was when I said, okay, so this is the thing. People are comfortable giving me their money and I have knowledge that's worth it. So I started building that out into something more robust. And after my first launch of my wildly popular course, 1K One Day Academy, I ended up generating in that launch $53,000. And that was when I was like, okay, I think we're good. Right. We're good. I think we're good. I think it's a thing. And so I was definitely ready to quit.
Awesome. You know, I'm curious for you, was there a book that you read or a video that you watched that kind of ignited you while you were in your corporate career to dip your toe in entrepreneurship and blogging and all of that?
Absolutely. So there are two books. Obviously, the one that I recommend that I think a lot of people have heard of is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. My experience with this book is a little bit different from others. You'll read the book, and the book always talks about like the big secret, right? It's a practical test that everybody in all walk of life, they understand this is the secret to making money, and that every single wealthy person does this. But they actually never really outright state like the secret to making money is blank. Like, they never like you read the book, and it's just kind of like telling you stories of things that wealthy people have done that has worked, right? That's worked for them. So in any case, the thing that I took away from this book, you know, for some people, I know that they're big, like mind-blowing moments where it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I needed to be like positive, you know, or I didn't realize that I needed to not have a lack of imagination. Like they're just big, shocking things. But for me, the biggest thing that I took away from this book was, oh my goodness, some people don't think like this. Like you wake up thinking like this, which must mean that your relationship with money is different than other people, which means that you really have a shot at this. Like you think like the people that this book is written about, which means that which means that you are one of these people and you can do it. That was like sort of like a shocking validation, you know, because I wasn't rich at the time, right? So I was like, if I'm not rich at the time, but my brain already operates like these rich people, then there's no excuse. I just need to do the work. Okay, I can do that. You know, I can do the work. You know, that's just time, tools, and resources, and I can get all of those. I grew up as a super duper poor kid. My parents are both African immigrants from Ghana, West Africa. So I went without meals, and the family couch was my bed until I was 12. You know, in the front living room. And so having grown without, I'm definitely not afraid of work, and I definitely understand the value of having to like kind of hustle and make it work. And so just knowing that my mind was okay and that I just needed to find the tools, I was like, this is doable. I can.
Yes, the sweat equity.
Sweat equity. I can do that.
Yeah. What was the second book? And then I want to talk about money.
Oh, sure. The second book, it actually came a little shortly after because I didn't understand why I was doing so well on live streaming. I was like, I feel like I'm just going on and talking to people kind of like with a FaceTime. I don't understand why this is converting so well for me, because every time I would go live, I'd go live 2 to 3 times a day. I'd make around $1,000 just in sales. And I was like, I know I'm good at sales, but what is happening? The book I read is called The Storyteller's Secret by Carmine Gallo. And his wildly popular book is Talk Like Ted, where he talks about the TED Talks, process. But The Storyteller's Secret is literally just talking about how all the most successful people in the world are great storytellers. They have great stories and they know how to leverage them in their business and in their lives. And that's what I do well, is I tell stories.
You know what I love is that the book was more confirmation than information for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I always try to stretch myself and read things that are teaching me new concepts, but it's always really nice when you pick something up and you're like, oh, there is alignment here. And I just didn't know anyone around me who also thought this way. So I'm really glad that I found this, Yep.
So I know you mentioned 1K one day, and you have a community you call Rich Friends.
Yes.
So, I'm curious for you, how did you come up with that name, especially with the background of your childhood of like money being tight and all of those? So I'm just curious, like what embodiment, where did this word like land for you for like, this is what I'm going to call my community?
Sure. So the reason they're called Rich Friends is actually has nothing to do with money, which is the crazy part. So I'm a big believer that we're all wealthy already. We're all just working on the bank account part. That's going to take time, but we're rich in purpose. We're rich in value. We're rich in family. We're rich in potential. We're rich in health because we're still here and breathing. And so there are so many rich things that we have in our life that we need to recognize that wealth and then use it and leverage it to just get the bank account part, because we can do that. We can do that together collectively. So I call them Rich Friends because we're already rich, and we need to carry that forward in all that we do. So that's why they're called Rich Friends. That's what that's actually about. But then the reason why we call each other like, hey, rich friend, or what's up, rich friend, is we always joke, who doesn't want to have a rich friend, right? Like having a rich friend is like, obviously you want to be the rich friend, right? But it's also nice to have one. I'm sure that Gail isn't sitting around saying, man, that Oprah is so useless. Like I'm her best friend, but who cares? You know what I mean? Like, she's like, I'm winning, you know, Oprah's my best friend. This isn't a bad thing, you know? So yes, that's why we refer to each other as rich friends, because we know that the rising tide lifts all boats, that we are in a community where if one of us wins, we're all winning, because we get to be part of that experience and learn from each other. And then we share and give abundantly, because we also recognize that that's part of the riches, like sharing that knowledge. And so that's why we're called the Rich Friends. And it just happened. It was one of those internet things where I'm like, hey, rich friend, you know, and it's stuck. So
I love that organicness of things sticking.
Right.
It wasn't like part of the plan. And people are
not
like,
at all.
I would like to stay the rich friend. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So I'm curious, you know, because, you know, I looked at 1K one day and it looks like an amazing program. I'm like, I need to sign up for this.
Oh my gosh.
But one thing that I noticed is how accessible the price of the program is.
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious if there was intentionality behind that, because would you say this is your signature program, or what's...
It is. Yeah, it is. So it's two-pronged, right? So I grew up really poor, and because I grew up really poor, I understand what it's like to look from the outside, know that I have potential, and not have things accessible to me. I have a problem with that. Like, it just doesn't align with me morally. So I have a very accessible course because I want to make sure that the person who has all the drive and all the ambition and all the potential and is willing to take that chance is able to do it. And I also want to make sure that when they come out of it, that if they apply all the strategies, they're not looking at my course as a piece of debt that they own, that they're able to say, I actually got profitable off of it. So that is just a personal integrity thing. The other thing is just in terms of structure of my business, I'm super expensive to work with. I still have business to business clients, and it's a 5-figure, you know, one day, you know, 8-hour meeting with me, you know, so most people don't have access to that. And I want to be able to provide, you know, the Accenture, McKinsey, top of the line executive consulting services for the everyday person. Now, the everyday person doesn't necessarily need a one day, you know, with me. So I want to make sure they can have access to the base level tools to get those, you know, things straightened out and fill in the gaps and get profitable at a rate that is far more reasonable. They still deserve that great knowledge. So that's why that course is priced that way. From a personal standpoint, from a strategic and business standpoint, it's priced that way because there's additional opportunities when you look at the lifetime value of the client. So I don't look at it as a sort of feast or famine, one-time win, generating income, big, huge launch, never see you again. The way that my business is structured, this is just an entry point into the organization. So you come in and you make this, you know, smaller investment, and if we serve you well, then hopefully you'll transition into my member group, which ends up being a, you know, a longer financial investment that's still reasonable, but hopefully you'll continue to stay there. And usually whenever we do, because of the way that we serve in the forefront, we usually do like another $500,000 or more in our secondary membership group launch after that. So, I mean, every single launch I do on the front end may only look like a $500,000 launch, but it always ends up being $1 million launch because we serve so well at this low level investment that people want to continue and stay within the organization long after the course is done. And then after that, you know, as they grow in their business and attain their goals and grow revenue, they turn to our company first to get that high level coaching and that high level consultative support, which, you know, again, is a 5-figure investment. And then the membership group launch, as well as that high level consultative support, is at zero marketing dollars because they're already in the business funnel.
Yes.
So it works out really, really well.
I love that. And I'm curious how, you know, you have a high focus on serving your customers and, you know, having them come back. How do you love and delight your community, your customers?
So the number one thing that I always recommend for anyone to do, is because it's just so easy, is I show up, right? I show up. I mean, they are paying to work with you. And I think that our system, this industry has gotten really big on automation. It's like, it's the, you know, the keyword right now, automate everything,
yes.
You know, build a business that you don't have to be in. And that just makes no sense to me because you only get paid for doing work. So it's one of those things where I believe in automating systems and processes all day. I don't believe in automating relationships, and you absolutely need to get in there and build those, and you need to interact. And just from like a real person standpoint, right, and not the like fancy podcast answer, but like we get paid stupid amounts of money. You know what I mean? Like it's like ridiculous gobs of money. Like you can't show up for 6 weeks for 2 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like after a $500,000 launch, like girl, you better log in. You know what I mean? Like log in and like some posts, log in and give some cheers, answer some questions. And that's how I see it. I mean, I am earning, multiple times my previous corporate salary, in a 6-week time frame. I can't be present to answer questions and go live and interact and be all in with these people. I certainly can. And so that is how we are over serving and over delivering and challenging our competitors and peers in the space to be able to do the same. And if they can't do the same, then people very quickly shift over to where they can get that type of support if that's what they determine they need.
Yes.
And that also includes having my team do things like pick up the phone and call people and not just solely interact on email. Yes, there's an efficiency cost. Yes, there's a time cost, but we more than make up for that in lifetime value as well as saved marketing dollars, because people scream from the rooftops every time we have a launch, because they're like, so we have to shut the doors because people are sending people our way so quickly because they know about the service experience that we offer and the results that we get. So, it all balances out in the end.
It's the currency in connection,
Yep.
and that piece. You cannot automate connection.
That's right.
And you can't outsource authenticity.
And you shouldn't want to. If you feel the need to do that, then what are you doing?
Right.
Find something else to do.
So for you, what is your show up? Like how, you do a launch, how often are you present each day inside a group? Are you scheduling time out, a block, or just kind of dipping in here and there? Like what's your guidelines and boundaries?
Sure. So I definitely have, blocks that I say to myself, like no matter what, in the very beginning when people are first starting out all the way through to the end of my second module. It's only a 3-module course. So the vast majority of it, I try to be in there anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a day, cumulative, meaning so that might be broken out in different spaces. But if I have a moment, I'll do block times, maybe of 2 hours where I just get in there and answer as much as I can. Then throughout the day, little quick 15-minute increments, I'll just pop in and kind of see how people are doing. And then towards the end, once everyone's pretty settled, we started getting results. We all kind of understand where there's not as many nerves because we're just kind of trying something new for ourselves the first time, all that. I'll go down to maybe 2 hours a day because the need isn't as necessary. And then I also have my member group. My member group, I'm there, I don't want to say all day, but I'm always popping in and answering questions. And then one of the ways that I truly provide that support is I moderate my posts in my group. So that is something that I think people are very quick to turn over to a community manager because it can feel very overwhelming when you're getting all those posts. But I moderate those because I'm able to say very proudly, I see every single thing that someone posts in our group. Yes. So it's there's nothing. And if you have something that you're fearful about or scared about, well, guess what? I see it first. It's between me and you first. So that is something I'm super proud of. So I don't know how long that's sustainable. I mean, it is as long as we continue to cap our groups, but in our community, but that's how I interact and we love it. We love it. We're so grateful.
So a question I have for you, you've been featured in Forbes, Good Morning America, US Weekly, ABC News. You also have a collective of 200,000 followers just between Instagram and Facebook.
Right.
So I'd love to talk about being visible online.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And, I know you show many aspects of your life, your kids, your fur babies, your hubbing, your traveling, even your weight loss journey, your wigs who have amazing names. And I'm just curious, what boundaries have you put into place? Is there anything off limits? And I'm just curious about your own visibility strategy online, because I know this is a very big struggle for a lot of people. It doesn't look like it is for you. So I'm just curious about your approach, your intention, your engagement strategy.
Sure. So, I found that it was very easy from the beginning for me to just live a life that I'm comfortable people seeing online. So what you see online, it's funny because it's the first thing that people always say when they meet me, oh my gosh, you're exactly like you are online. People always say that. And I'm like, well, yeah. What else am I supposed to be like? I don't get it. And it's because I think that there are a lot of influencers who feel like when you're online, to stand out from the noise, you need to be extra loud or, whatever else, something that you may not be. And so it's great because what I share online, because it's consistent with my life behind closed doors, I don't feel like I need to sort of edit or manufacture or curate, because you'll just see it, including like when I look a hot mess, or if I want to cry, or if I'm upset, or if something doesn't go well, I'll share that too, because it is what it is. And I have a lot of security in knowing, as a woman of faith, like I am very comfortable in my relationship with God, and I'm very comfortable in relationship with what that means about who I am and where I'm loved. And then I'm also, I have an amazing family, an amazing husband, and my family would live with me in a box if I had nothing. So it's like people can pretty much say or do whatever on the internet, and I always will have a place to go where I'm loved. And that's very comforting for me. But that said, in terms of boundaries, we don't share every little nuance of what goes on with our kids. We don't share every little detail around, I shared some of their story here, but that's obviously not, the longer, deeper, wider story, because that's their story to tell.
Yes.
And they deserve 100% to have their own story and their own life and that normality that they didn't have earlier on. So I want them to have that. And so we don't share everything there with the kids. In terms of our marriage, we share like most of it. There's not really, I guess I don't really have that filter of things
right.
I
There's no
want to share.
Yeah.
Right. And then I also, one thing I am aware of is I don't necessarily share everything real time. So I'm a really big believer in, when you're sharing things with an audience, it's important for you to bring them some closure. So if you're in the moment and you're like, I can't figure something out, like you don't necessarily need to bring people into that panic with you. That isn't necessarily authentic. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what authenticity is. Like in the middle of a meltdown, go to the internet and share all that, or do, what's the thing they call it? Vague booking, where you
right.
like, oh my gosh, worst day today. Everything's awful. And you just don't say anything else.
What is she talking about?
What is she even talking about? Or don't you hate when people copy you and then you don't say anything else? I don't do that type of stuff. Instead, I prefer to share things once I have the lesson that's come out of it, so there's that. And I found that that's just been the effective way. But I will tell you, I don't really have some crazy social media strategy. I just literally, it's going to sound cheesy, keep it real. I just I'll have moments where I'm like, oh, that's something people should probably know. Or someone will react to something, like I'll share something in a community or with my kids, and they'll be like, I never knew that. And I'm like, really? I wonder how many people don't. Let me go tell my friends. They need to know, because that's crazy. They need to know this thing, So that's how we've approached it. And I don't know if it'll always be like that. Over time, as our visibility has grown online, it's also grown in public. So we definitely have had to start scaling back privacy wise, like sharing things after we leave, or not letting, maybe not every single moment, like doing a family vacation, maybe posting that after we get home, or, things like that, just, for safety and security things, because we do get recognized more when we're out and about. But outside of that, no, just kind of be myself, because it's the easiest thing to be consistently.
and what would you say, it's like, this is a personal struggle of mine, shifting from simple green smoothies, where I'm sharing green smoothie recipes and like, what are the health benefits of chia seeds? Like that was really easy to share, add value in recipes, and then moving into more of the entrepreneurial space where it's like, oh, my life.
Right.
And there's this fear, hesitation for me, where I don't want to necessarily glorify the lifestyle.
Sure.
Because that's not, like, everyone has, the sovereignty to choose what life path they want. And I don't want someone signing up being like, oh, this is what you get on the other side of entrepreneurship. Like, I don't know. There's a part of me that doesn't want to glorify the lifestyle, even though that is, a part of what I value, and being able to travel and be present with my family and take care of my body. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that for people who are struggling to, like, I want to share more of myself, but at the same time, just there's a little bit of a visibility block.
Yeah, sure. No, so I share all the things. That's the difference, is like, I share if I have a bad day, or like a crummy launch, or I'm stuck, or I'm frustrated, or I don't feel like it, or an employee quits, usually I'll share that. I'll say, hey, so this thing just happened. This comes with the entrepreneurship. So remember back when I had all my rich friends in Cancun, Mexico, and we were on a yacht? Yeah, that was really cool. Today's the day where I'm freaking out about whether or not I'm going to be able to pay or do that again. You know what I mean? Like, that's the real thing. Or, oh my gosh, this is a great day. I just moved all my kids into this amazing house. Guess what? Tomorrow I'm freaking out because we have a leak in the roof and it costs 20 grand and I got to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, these are real things. And I'm grateful that I have the money to cover this, but I also am aware of what this looks like, And so I think that being really candid is necessary in showing both sides. Or one of the things that I often share is like, when it comes to business is almost like my safe space for my emotions, where, because it's like, I know how to do business, because I like, when the idea of losing someone $500 or $20,000 in their business is something that like I am able to like solve very quickly, because I used to have to worry about losing like millions of dollars in business. So like this for me doesn't have the same fear, and I have way more confidence around my strategies. Like it's a lot easier for me to do. When the thing that I don't know how to do is like parenting, right? Like I have new kids, and I just realized like it's like you're figuring out as you go. You really are. And like and there are days where I don't know if I'm a good enough mom. And there are days where I wonder if I traveled too much, just a little bit too much. Or there are days where I wonder if, you know, like, am I saying the right thing? Am I giving them what they need? Like, I'm constantly in a way that I just don't in business. And so I share a lot of that part too, saying like, I want you to understand that even if I may look like this awesome business owner who has it all together, and like, man, Nicole's traveling and has a home and kids and all that, like, I still very much have the same worries of like, you know, when my kid was 3, like dropping her in a toilet because I literally didn't understand that you needed potty seats to like put on the toilet because their butts are too small to like fit on the seat. Like, just like, and I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. I'm a horrible mother who just dropped their kid in a toilet. Like, I'm a terrible person, you know, like, it's like, and 5 minutes before I made $11,000. You know what I mean? Like, the two things can be juxtaposed next to each other, and that is okay. And it's okay to be a hot mess. You know, it's okay as long as you're functioning. Like, and that's what I am. I'm a functional hot mess. I'm proud of it. I put it out there, and I do it so that people can know you can have the greatness and you can still be a hot mess disaster. And like, it doesn't mean anything about who you are.
Yeah. You know what I love is, you know, saying that business is your safe space, right? Like, like I'm comfortable at doing this. I could pretty much do this with my eyes closed.
Yes.
And this parenting thing, there's a lot of questions. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I was at Orange Theory. You know, I hadn't been there like in a really, really long time.
There is one up the street from me, girl. And I'm like, am I going to go to this place? Because it's competitive. They've got competition boards.
I think you have to try it. They had Beyonce versus Rihanna when I went. I was like, okay, I can do this.
We can do this.
But what I noticed, like, I'm the one who's walking on the treadmill. Everyone else is running.
Yep.
I'm the one who's like, oh, it says 16 reps. I think I did 7. I'm going to move on to the next. Like, what came up for me is like, I'm not really good at fitness right now. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm really good at business. Right. And so it's just kind of noticing like, where is your zone of strength and genius and greatness, and being aware of that and just fully owning that. And then being okay to do things and lean into stuff where you're not that great. And I think what's happening in our society is we feel like we have to be great at everything in all areas of our lives, and don't give ourselves an opportunity to grow and be messy, be that functional hot mess in an area of your life, but still show up, still be consistent, still do the work, and know that you're going to get better, but not judging yourself in the process of that. So I just love that parallel of like motherhood, business, health. Like, there's somewhere where you're just not that great right now, and it might be business, and that's totally okay. But like, be okay being like the worst one or the slowest one or the one that's walking on the treadmill in business.
Nailed it. Yep. Yeah. Nailed it. And that's like, you couldn't be more on the money with that. With parenting, I get better. I'm so much better now than I was before. And a lot of being a better mom now is just knowing my resources, which is the same as business. Like, I have mom coaches, you know, like, meaning I have friends who have been doing this a while that I'm not embarrassed or scared or hesitant to say, where do I get school supplies? Or how do, like, toddlers don't wear belts. What are you supposed to do? And then you find out there's like an adjustable strap on the inside of the pants, you know, like, just like things like that, you know, like, these are things that, this is how we find out. This is how we learn. You're not supposed to have all the answers. And as you get them over time, you also get better. And so like, grant yourself that grace.
Yes. So one thing that I want to talk about is representation. It's something that really matters to me. And I know that both you and I are women of color speaking on stages around the world. And there are many times in my experience where I find I'm the only female speaker. I'm the only person of color. And I'm just curious if this experience is true for you and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So it's not something I take lightly. I am often the only woman of color in the room, on the stage, in the series, in the webinar, at the boardroom, at the table, you know, and so that is not lost on me. It's a blessing to be someone who gets to, break down that door and then also hold it open for the women behind me. But it also isn't lost on me that I am not always going to get invited to, have a seat at the table. So I either need to invite myself or build my own table. And those are the things that I've always paid a lot of attention to. So when it comes to this space, and I'll just put this out for any women of color that are listening, I didn't wait for an invitation. Sometimes people look and say, Nicole, how'd you get on that stage at that conference, at that event? I told them I needed to be there. And I went there and I said, hey, African-American women are becoming entrepreneurs at a rate of 9 times the average American. You are missing out on a demographic and a way to make money. Plain and simple. That's a language we all understand. That's a color that we all agree with. So that said, let me help you get more seats in that chair that look like me, and let me get on that stage and tell a story that's going to be compelling and connect with the ones that are already there. And what I found is whenever I get on these platforms, not only does it open the door for an entirely large new audience of people to find great resources and tools that they can use to grow their business, but also for these brands to realize that, there is a market out there, that is seeking this info. But it's awesome because I get off the stage and these women will come to me and they'll say, it's so good to see someone who looks like me up there because I could see my own story in that. And it connects in a different way. And I know what it's like being in that audience, looking up on the stage and still connecting with stories, still understanding, still feeling like it's possible, but then seeing someone like me and really seeing myself on that stage. And it's just really powerful. So I pride myself on that. And then I also try to do this in my own business. So I'm really excited to say that I have a team that is completely diverse. I mean, totally diverse. We have pretty much every box on the census, in our team, and every gender. And that is something that we're really proud of. We also, in my community, it's extremely, extremely diverse. And I think that's something that's very rare. My community is not just women. It's not just men. It's not just, Black women. It's not just white women. It's not just Christians, it's not just certain industries. And I'm very happy because it means that, one, we're doing something that's drawing people. It's a message that's speaking to universally. And then it also allows me to curate experiences within the community where people are building friendships and relationships and business partnerships and collaborations with people that they typically wouldn't, that they might not ever meet. They're not just standing in a room looking around at people who look just like them. And it's exciting when I hear that, a woman who lives in Nebraska, in a town of, 100 people is now accountability partners with a woman who lives in Detroit. And neither one of them knew someone outside of their race, so that's the power of the internet. And that's the power of being able to build your own business, is that I can say, hey guys, we're having accountability groups. Guess what? Sarah and Taronda, you guys are both going to be partners, and that's what's going to go down right now. And they're like, okay, we trust you, Nicole, and before you know it, they realize how many commonalities they have. And, it opens their eyes to additional relationships and support. So it's a beautiful thing. And having that power is a blessing. And we should definitely be wielding it in a way to deepen more than people's pockets.
I love that so much. And I love the visual of you inviting yourself, like knocking on the door. I would like to be on this stage, and I'm keeping the door open to invite my rich friends to come along for the ride and the journey.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, I'm just so inspired by you, your realness, your just drive and living your purpose in the world. And I'm curious if you have a dream, a desire, a wish, kind of that unsung song that has not become a reality yet.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd love to be able to help more children. That is amazing. I mean, having my 3 girls has completely changed my perspective, and I have a real heart for the vulnerable children, animals, and the planet, and being able to create a world and leave it better than I found it is the thing that I don't talk about often, but it's definitely something I'm working towards every single day. If I can do something to make sure our planet is in a better condition, than it is now, and definitely in a great one for my kids, my eventual grandkids, and generations later, that is something I really, really, really would like to contribute towards. And then obviously helping the kids who, not just little girls who look like me, but the little girls who think, believe, and have a heart to be something more in this world, but just don't have the tools, resources, and time to know, girls and boys know that they that they have access to that, and maybe give them the break that they need in order to be able to see their own dreams come to fruition. So here's hoping that if things keep going as they are, I'm able to do that for more little girls and boys, not just here in America, but all over the world.
Oh, I just love your heart. I just want to squeeze it. So if people want to learn more about you and your Rich Friends community, where do they go?
They can go to NicoleWalters.com.
Awesome. And I'll definitely include links in the show notes over at jadasolner.com. And is there anything else we haven't covered that you'd love to share before we say goodbye?
Jada, you are such a blessing and gift into this world. I'm so grateful for your friendship, and I'm grateful for your ability to use your platform to help us all serve better. So thank you. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. I love you to pieces, and I can't wait to squeeze you in person for real, for real.
I cannot wait. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for your heart and attention in listening to Lead with Love. If this message, leading with love in life and business, and remembering the humans and beating hearts behind the numbers and all of that good stuff, I would love for you to take the time to leave an honest review. It would mean the world to me, and it also helps more people find out about the goodness and helping spreading more love in the world, which we really, really need. So I would really appreciate that, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.